Post-debate special. Let's get reaction heard tonight from the head of the Democratic Party, Florida Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman-Schultz. She's in the spin room in Milwaukee. Congresswoman, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Brett. Great to be with you.
A lot of talk tonight about President Obama, embracing him, talking about his policies. Can one of these two candidates be the candidate of change while embracing the last 7.5 years of President Obama's administration?
Oh, of course. I mean, certainly compared to the Republicans, because the kind of change they're talking about is to go back to what they define as the glory days of the Bush administration that plunged us into the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression in the first place, that had us mired in war and the go-it-alone strategy, and who refused to make sure that everyone had access to health care. So the kind of change that either one of our candidates would make is the change that you need to build on the progress that we've already been able to make. And that's what they talked about very substantively tonight, and I was quite proud of both of them.
Were you surprised that there was a focus on Henry Kissinger?
You know, there's always a variety of topics. I was really glad to hear them talk about the importance of making sure that we can continue to invest in education and health care, and making sure that what voters want to hear from their candidates for president is, how are you going to help make sure I have an opportunity to reach the middle class, and not have me continue to struggle and go the way the Republicans talk about, which is focused on helping the wealthiest, most fortunate Americans continue to do well.
Are you a fan of Kissinger?
You know, I am a fan of our Democratic candidates for president, and my job as a member of Congress and the DNC is to continue to help move us forward.
Well, let's talk about this race and where it stands in Iowa and New Hampshire. The vote in Iowa essentially tied. Clinton and Sanders basically tied in Iowa. New Hampshire, Sanders overwhelmingly beating Clinton. However, in the delegate count coming out of Iowa, Clinton is up 29-21, and in New Hampshire, she's up it's basically tied 15-15 coming out of that because of superdelegates. Now, for somebody who's a Sanders supporter and they look at these numbers of delegates, what do you tell them? Aren't they angry about it?
Well, if you remember, in 2008, we had this same concern arise, and when we got to the convention, at the end of the day, our entire convention unanimously supported then Senator Obama, and the actual nomination was supported by then Senator Clinton. It's important to clarify the difference between pledged and unpledged delegates, Brett. In a primary and a caucus, the candidates come out of those with pledged delegates who are bound on the first ballot to support the candidate that earned that delegate. Unpledged delegates are our party leaders and elected officials who actually can make up their mind at any point and change their mind. We separate those so that we don't have elected officials and party leaders running against the activists who we want to make sure are helping to diversify our convention. That's something we take great pride in. A Native American, a cancer survivor, those people should have an opportunity to be delegates too, and they shouldn't have to deal with very well-known elected officials and party leaders, and that's why we separate them.
I'm not sure, you know, that all fits on a bumper sticker for an angry Sanders supporter, but get your point about going to the convention. Let me ask you another thing.
We've been there.
As you look through the exit polling in New Hampshire, Congresswoman, and you see the honest and trustworthy number, and you see Sanders getting 92% based on this question of honest and trustworthy versus Clinton's 6%. Is there a problem there for Hillary Clinton?
You know, Brett, I'm neutral when it comes to the outcome of the Democratic primary, and so it's not for me to comment on the attributes or criticisms of either of our candidates. What I do know is that the American people support the direction that we've been going and want to elect a president that will continue to take us in that direction and don't want to go backwards. 19 million Americans who have health care now don't want to lose it. We have an economy that's improved through 71 straight months of job growth, and they don't want to go backwards. So that's what I'm confident voters are going to make a decision on when they cast their ballot for president.
You've always been a proponent of transparency. I remember talking to you numerous times in the Bush administration where you brought up transparency. Given that history, do you think that Secretary Clinton should release the transcripts of those Wall Street speeches?
You know, that's something that's going to be up to the Secretary. When it comes to transparency related to her official work, she released 55,000 pages of emails, and you know, it doesn't get more transparent than that, and I'm confident that she will make the kinds of decisions that she believes are necessary and appropriate. And when it comes to transparency, I think we've had consistent transparency across the board.
Last thing, do you agree with the Clinton campaign that the State Department IG and the subpoena of the Clinton Foundation, that the State Department IG is somehow operating in a political realm, that he somehow has a vendetta against Secretary Clinton?
Again, I'm not going to zero in on, as far as my opinion, on specific criticisms related to our candidates. You know, I do say, though, that it doesn't really compute in my mind, as a member of Congress, putting that hat on, where you have information that, when it was transmitted, was not classified, and then is classified after the fact. I mean, so that's an important distinction. And so when something's classified after the fact, you know, it is then difficult to criticize someone who, you know, at the time clearly was transmitting information that they knew were not classified, and that's an important distinction.
And finally, you've had 6 debates so far. I think you have 4 more on the books. How about letting the Fox News debate team handle one of those?
You know, we've got a lot on our plate, and I'm really happy to be here with you on your network. There aren't a whole lot of Democrats who come on, and I always look forward to our conversations, Brett. Look forward to sparring with you and some of your hosts all the way through the campaign.
So you're saying there's a chance?
I'm saying that I'm here, ready to talk to you about the issues, and we'll do so all the way through this election cycle.
Okay, I'll take the hope part of that. Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman-Schultz, thank you very much.
Thank you, Brett. Great to be with you.
Up next.